All right, Milsurp Garage. I'm back with you with a follow-up. I did some research here. Let's take a look at some stuff. I don't have a tremendous amount of info. I'm not saying that I'm gonna completely get to the bottom of everything with these, but I certainly got some explanations going on. So there's this guy on these rimfire chat forums. A couple of these guys that know the nuts and bolts of these Model 29s. So now apparently what I learned basically is that the Model 29 is totally different from the 29A and the 29B. The 29, which all of these receivers that you see here are all 29s. Basically, what I showed you, my Ranger, is a Model 29. The 29A and the 29B are completely different guns. They're so modified and upgraded and changed that they don't even share any parts or anything. So, the Model 29 is a pre-war model that is completely different from the A and the B. So the A and the B you could just forget about. It's not either of those. It's definitely just the Model 29. Now, and those are all pre-war. So, of those Model 29s now, these are the variations. Okay, so what I'm going to be showing you here, all this stuff here, this is all Model 29 stuff. Now this was the first, right here, this top one is the first version with a one-piece lifter, what they call it. We'll get to that later. But now this is the next is when they made these modifications for what they call high speed, which means when they started, the ammo started to be modified to be like high velocity ammo, they made some changes. And then there's a last version. This version here would be my version. So I was right on both accounts where I said I had some early features and some late features. What it is I was getting it all convoluted. I had an early gun because it was the 29. So it was earlier than the 29A and the 29B, ones that I had seen a million pictures of. The 29 is, I think, less common and earlier. However, of the 29s, mine is a later production 29. So that's where I was getting mixed up between what they were saying. Some things were earlier production, some things were later production. Now, this guy breaks it down exactly what he means for these versions here. And he shows, this first of all is how they're connected, that they're center spring loaded here. And this one is a certain way that the lifter gets pulled down. But let's just, for now, we'll just skip those. Let's just go to these lifters in here. And remember, I was showing you in the video how the lifter worked and how it was interesting how it was lifting the round up. Well, this is the difference between those three, is that is the lifters. If you notice, this one right here is just one single piece. That's it. Even here where it looks like it's separated, there might be two pieces. There isn't. It's just one single piece milled out of one piece of metal. Now the second version, if you notice, this is actually three separate pieces. There's this one piece here that's like the base. There's this piece here that goes up and down on this hinge here. And then there's actually a third piece right here that's the actual elevator that lifts it up, right? Now this is crazy. There's three pieces, and I had read about this three-piece one. You can imagine if something on them breaks, and even though you're getting a piece for a Model 29, this will not interchange with this, even if you swap out the whole piece. They're different. The guns themselves, even the way they mount, is different. See, now this one, this is the only one that has two pieces that pivot on this screw. So if you see the single piece, this is just a single piece. And then even though this is several pieces, if you notice, this piece can just be screwed down. You don't have to worry about anything else. 2 pieces having to use this as a fulcrum point, because the fulcrum point is here. It moves this way. But this one, if you notice, there's 2 pieces now. This and this main body and this piece, that have to both be connected to this screw, and this spring is what makes it springy. This is the one that I have. I could tell here too because of the shape of this bottom part. If you notice the bottom part, this one is covered, but they're all different. This is definitely, because of this bottom part, the one I have. And not 100%. You see these rivets here. So you'll notice there's these 2 rivets. Well, you watch, I have like an even later one than this, but it is this design. So because of that, it uses a special screw. It's called a step head. It has the screw has a step in it that's required so that both of these pieces can use this as a fulcrum point without them just being screwed together, where it locks them together and they don't move. This has to actually be able to move inside of this housing. So there's a screw with a step on it. If you notice, he has it pointed out here, and it has like a little edge there. So if you get this part but you use the wrong screws, look, first of all, this is a tapered screw. This is a flat screw, but it doesn't have that edge, see? And this is a stepped screw. Now the one that I have is even later. There's a 4th type. This is my exact piece right here, because they have spot welds here holding this together. Then here's that stepped screw, and this piece moves up and down inside of this housing with a spring. This is the exact one that I have. So it's a late one, and that's how I'm able to date my gun, because although these are pre-war, just with this assembly being like that, I know it's 1939. And then now there's a whole aspect of this gun that we didn't even talk about, even though this was a Savage Model 28. Stevens back then, the pre-war ones, they came out with a Model 75, which was basically the same gun, but with its own modifications, its own stuff. And you can see that, talking about how they're cheaper. They're not as well made. These are pins put in here and then hit with punches to seat them in place, and that didn't really work very well. So it's not just the Ranger aspect of this Savage Model 29. Then there's these Stevens versions to also contend with. So this is why there's just so much out there. Now, forget about the receivers. Now you move into the bolts themselves. Look at the different bolt faces here. This is an early bolt with this fat firing pin that I had mentioned. I'm pretty sure I had mentioned in the video that I had read. And that this is the chambering position of the cartridge. And then this is when it's chambering it, and then when it actually seats in, and this is the firing position. See how it sits lower, and this is the part of the firing pin that contacts the case. But you see this huge indentation here was a problem for the high-speed rounds, because it was deforming the face of the cases with the high-speed ones. So they closed up the bolt to make it a flat face, and they had the firing pin sat down in a smaller area that it struck around. You see, between this huge section up here and this section down here, there really isn't much bolt face to contain the cartridge. So you see here, there's much more room for the case head to sit on a flat surface here, and the only thing it's getting struck by is this skinny little piece of firing pin. So that's mine, is this later style, and this is one of the earlier ones. And then he talks about here, this shows this like 3-piece lifter in action. The hinge parts lifts the cartridge even with the slot. See, a lot of this had to do with when they went to the high speed. That's why you had that 3-piece, this jammy here. This guy was because when they went to the high speed, they were trying to design a lifter that didn't have to cut through the bolt face. You know. So where else? Where are we? Yeah, and then this is more like the one that I have. It's more like this shape, and the bolt face is all closed and sealed up. And then this shows these are snap caps inserted inside the bolt face to show the loading position and firing position. Loading position, firing position. He's talking about that. And then here's the hammers, the way the hammers looked, that they had to be able to come back over these lifters. So and then it gives the dimensions of the wall, this actual steel wall of the receiver itself were even different. But this is the last type it says, and this is the kind of hammer I have in mind. And now he shows the A and B's, and you could see these bolts have they're similar, but you could see that this is where the lever is here. See this lever? This is where the lever is to operate the action, whereas these are all showing the other side of the receiver here. It's basically, you see in the video of my gun, it's in a different spot, that lever, the bolt release. And these designs inside here are all completely different. But they're definitely designed more for supposedly to handle the high-speed ammo. But even high-speed wasn't even like today's Stingers or Velocitors or all this other type of 22 ammo. The best thing to do with these is just stick to CCI target ammo, period. You'll never have a problem. And then he lines them up here and he's like, see, here's the problem. You tell them apart, and you can't. And then he does an interesting thing. I'm just going to touch on it. He compares them to the Remington Model 12, which we just recently did a video on. Supposedly, this design was very close to the Remington Model 12. And what happened, the Remington Model 12, the patents expired in 1929, sorry. So in 1929, so it's Savage Model 29, hello. It seems like these patents expired for the Remington Model 12, and they just jumped on it, and basically, the bolts are very similar. He shows that here, and it looks like he just jumped on the bandwagon. Is that all we got? It looks like he just jumped on it, and that's why there were no patents on the barrel. You know, I showed you, I said there's no patents on this barrel. Well, that is the Ranger one that didn't really have anything written. But besides that, the reason why there's no patents listed on it is because there were no patents. The Savage didn't own any patents for this gun. The patents ran out for the Model 12, and they just kind of copied a lot of those designs. They just used a lot of those existing designs, and that's where we ended up. No, I'm forgetting some. That's my design right there. This is the one that I have. But yeah, so this is a later design, later version of an early model. That's what mine is. That's the info that I got. I didn't see any of this last time I was researching, but I felt like this is enough information to at least just put it where it was at. It was a Model 29, and Sears commissioned these. Sears is like, hey, make these for us. We want to put our Ranger name on it and sell them in Sears. And that's what they did. And they were pre-war. When we went into World War II, Savage was a huge producer of, I've read that they made 95% of the Thompson submachine guns for the war. You know what I mean? They were a huge producer of arms they were even making the Enfields, they were making Enfields, the ones that, you've seen these Savage ones, and they were supposedly going to be used for us